B1. Rotate.
Hello and welcome to this Kerbal Space Program video. Today I will be sending a stack of relay satellites to Minmus, Kerbins' greenest and possibly mintiest natural satellite. And the rocket that I'm going to be using to do so is what you see before your very eyeballs today. It is a somewhat recreation of NASA's Space Launch System, meant to be launching some point in the near future. So it's like the SLS, but with a slightly bigger fairing. It's the SLS cargo variant. And yeah, it does have a slightly longer fairing because we do have quite a long payload today. We've got one main satellite that's going to be in high-ish orbit of Minmus. Then we've got 12 other small satellites with relay antennas. Really antennas. Anyway, ignoring that, yeah, we've got relay antennas which are going to go in other orbits of places, basically just dumping them into space at certain points during the video. Now, normally you'd want to keep your throttle quite low, so you're at a thrust-to-weight ratio of around 1.5, and you want to aim to be at 45 degrees on the nav ball by 10 kilometers. However, the Space Launch System isn't too fond of that. It likes tipping over. I'm working on a bloopers reel, so for the next few videos, well, hang on. It's SRB separation. Yeah, so for the next few videos, and Miko, because we have an apoapsis outside the atmosphere. Not a very efficient descent, but you know, I wanted to make sure the rocket wasn't going to tip over. As I was trying to say before I got distracted by the video that I'm supposed to be narrating. Hello. For the next few videos, I'll be putting together a blooper reel. There go the fairings. And SLS, I have a feeling, is going to feature quite heavily, as I also have another mission that's supposed to use the Space Launch System, a KSP Kerbalized recreation of the James Webb Space Telescope, which is in the pipeline, and also a rover to go to Minmus. Yes, the reason we're dumping all of these relays into space is for a rover. I play with ComNet enabled, so I want to have a relay network set up so the rover can still actually talk to Kerbin, so you can drive it around all nice and rover-like. That will be launched on an Ariane 5 replica, the European Space Agency's #1 rocket, although it does have a little bit wider fairing. It's going to look a bit more realistic than the James Webb replica. Yes, on the 25th of December 2021, James Webb did launch on an Ariane 5 rocket. I tried putting my replica on an Ariane 5 rocket, but the fairing would have been far too wide. So instead I decided to launch it on an SLS with a fairing that is still far too wide, but better than what I had. So planning on Minmus transfer burn, normally you'd want to sort your orbital inclination out before doing the trans-Minmus injection burn, if that's the proper name for it. However, I decided to completely ignore this because I wasn't aiming for an equatorial orbit of Minmus, I was aiming for a somewhere in the region of orbit of Minmus. So there we go, that's our intercept, and I really should have put more reaction wheels on this, as it is painfully slow to turn around, as I'm sure you will be finding out later in this video. Yeah, the upper stage didn't have any RCS and very weak reaction control. It was basically the reaction control built into the probe cores, of which we have quite a few. So recently found out, after playing for nearly 2 years, Jesus, yeah, recently found out that the high gain antenna acts as a relay. Didn't know that it did this until recently, as probably evident by the commentary that I'm saying. Yeah, didn't know that they did this until I accidentally found it out doing an Apollo-style moon mission. So we go extending the relay antennas, the relay antennas now, and you're going to see them deploying. I've got them staged, so I hit the A button on my Xbox controller, and they all shoot off like this. There we go. So yeah, they all fire off in their different directions, and because they're so light, the decouplers spread them out in a somewhat varied, not really manner. I mean, yeah, the satellites are on pretty much the same orbit as each other. So yeah, that's our mid-course correction burn to try and get us have a bit of a better orbit of Minmus. So we're going to go for initially quite a high orbit, then we're going to deploy the big satellite, then we're going to drop into a much lower orbit and deploy some of the other satellites. The other satellites made it really hard to plan that manoeuvre node, as the orbiter then kept getting in the way, and I nearly pressed to target it. So yeah, extending the solar panels of here, because I realised that we were running low on electric charge. The other relay satellites, the small sats, do have solar panels on them, but in this configuration, which is basically just like a big metal tree, they're often shadowed by each other, so don't get the optimal sunlight from the sun. Where else would you get sunlight? The sun in Kerbal Space Program is just called the sun officially. However, it's often referred to as Kerbal, spelt with an O rather than Kerbal, the name of the game. If you didn't know that by now, something's gone very wrong, or you're being forced to watch this video. So yeah, changing the thrust limiter back on that cheater engine, I reduced it to get a more accurate burn, then remembered I didn't put it back. Now the cheater engine, quite efficient, not the best power. It's from the Making History DLC, and I believe it's supposed to be used as an upper stage of the Gemini rocket, and they just flung some other satellites out. They don't have reaction wheels on them, and the probe core is only really there so we can see them on the map, although our map is getting a bit cluttered with many relay satellites, so I think when we launch James Webb and the Minmus rover, I'm going to turn that off. Although, despite not having them visible on the map screen, they'll still be there. So yeah, here we are at our Minmus apoapsis/periapsis. I think it's periapsis. Yeah, we're going to... So waiting to do the burn, I'm sure in every video, you've probably heard me say that you need... when it comes to a burn, you take the burn time, divide it by 2, and start at that time before the node. So if you've got a 10-second burn, you start 5 seconds before the node. And we are doing our burn now, so after we get circularised, see I changed the staging on the left. I'm pointing at my screen, I've got no idea why. But yeah, on the staging on the left you can see we deploy the big relay satellite first, as you see now. Switch back to the carrier vehicle, so yeah. Notice that we're going to go straight into that satellite. If that ever happens, engage warp, because physics doesn't really happen when you're in warp mode for some reason. Actually, I just knocked the microphone there, that probably came through. Well yeah, so dropping into a lower orbit of Minmus, really you can get away with some really low orbits. So yeah, warping to the next manoeuvre, and for some reason, apparently our engine didn't have enough power, or something like that. It didn't show up on the Delta V diagram, which was weird. But yeah, this was really annoying. I couldn't get perfectly on the manoeuvre node, because KSP Stability Assist is weird. So, deploying the last few satellites. So, thank you for watching this video. If you've got any suggestions for stuff that you'd like to see in the future, leave a comment. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like, and if you want to see more like this, subscribe. And that's it from me. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.
Okay, engine stop.